Ding, ding. It is time for the Equity Guru Investor Roundtable. Oh, baby. Do we have one set up for you today? It's a special edition. I'm Rob. In the basement with me down here is Galen Engen. He has the lights off. What are you making today?
Hash brownies.
Hash brownies. Very good. I know we'll
Nice.
take those to the wrestling match because that's what we're talking about. Chris Guru up in the corner. Chris Perry, the Guru
Chris
in the corner. Same thing.
That's his
And-
wrestling
They
nickname.
call me Equity.
Michelle Ventura straight upstairs, the chart master. All right, it's wrestling. We'll talk a little bit about the big ones and from a stock standpoint, but mostly we're going to talk about the most important one in BC, and that is NEW.
Any dub.
Dub.
So this Friday night at the Harbour Convention Centre, formerly the Edgewater Casino at the Plaza of Nations, Nation Extreme Wrestling 5 happens from 7 o'clock. Doors open 6:30. For those that are new to all this and are wondering why you would be talking about this on a stock investment site, we started NEW about 6 months back thinking we're going to be getting back to live events. People are going to want to go outside and do things. And so, hey, why don't we put on a show? And it's turned out to be a pretty good decision. We've sold out the Richmond Gaming Stadium. We sold out the Vancouver Convention Centre. We sold out Studio Nightclub on Granville. We sold out the Commodore until it had to be cancelled, postponed until June because of COVID. So this was a show that we put together, scratching around in our heads thinking, when is it likely that people would be able to go back to out of their houses to events? And we figured maybe the last week of February, we got it right on the money. An MMA show at the same venue the week before had to be postponed, and our show is going ahead. So we couldn't have timed it better. We timed COVID like we timed weed. So anyway, we're doing the show. We got a bunch of wrestlers from around North America. We've got Taya Valkyrie, formerly Frankie Monet of WWE fame. We've got Max the Impaler from Impact. We've got B-Boy, who was on AEW for a second before he injured himself last year. We've got Sumi Sakai, the queen of Japanese wrestling. Who else we got? Oh, and Effie, gay icon and superstar wrestler extraordinaire, who is going to be teaming with the White Russian, Anton Alexiev, who generally orders drinks from the bar during his matches. And last time out at studio, crowned the referee with an empty bottle of vodka. So, if you can't have fun with all that, you're not really trying. All ages event plus booze will be sold because it's at a convention center. We figured out the secret formula.
Nice. Galen, are you going to be there drinking and watching people smash vodka bottles over the referee's head?
When is it again?
Friday night.
Perhaps. I do have some things that I need to do on Friday, but if I
Do they involve smashing bottles over someone's head?
Yeah, but that's not for money,
Then
and we don't really want
wrong.
to talk about that.
Family lunch.
It's this Friday. So this roundtable will be seen on Thursday and Friday. So that's the 24th and 25th.
So literally, if you're watching this and you're thinking, you know what, I could do with some wrestling tonight, head on down across from BC Place to the Harbour Convention Center and enjoy.
On
There'll
Friday.
be tickets sold at the door because suddenly we have a lot more tickets than we thought we were going to get away with.
Nice.
And the idea is eventually, we're getting this thing along to a place where we're going to prepare it for the public markets as an investment vehicle.
Oh,
So Equity.Guru did invest in an English soccer club last year, which is doing another raise, and we might take more of that. So an investment in a football club in England, plus a wrestling promotion in North America, plus maybe something else. I've had calls from somebody who is putting together a racetrack in BC. There's all sorts of, now that we're out of COVID, like the idea is, what do people want to do with their time? They want to get out of the house immediately. And so live events across BC are just stacking. everybody who's wanted to strum a guitar in front of an audience is suddenly trying to find somewhere to do it. So it's going to be
They'll finally let me?
live events are going to be the thing in the rest of 2022.
Galen, were you ever the Sheik or Tex McKenzie or Flying Fred Curry as a child?
Dude, I used to watch Calgary Stampede.
I know who Galen was. He was Tillicum.
Tillicum the Sea Otter. Yeah, I was, for a very embarrassing evening and never fucking again. It was a mutual agreement, actually. Anyway, no, I actually grew up on Calgary Stampede. Loved it. Thought it was lots of fun. That was back in the Hart Brothers days and Andre the Giant and all sorts of other guys. Yeah, the good old days where blood was splashed all over the real stuff. Chairs are broken over backs. Guys dropped from the ceiling. It was insane. Caged matches where there was barbed wire used. It was nuts. Basically, I think it's a lot more theatrical these days, which is probably good for the wrestlers. And good on them for that, because honestly, like, real gladiator shows probably shouldn't be, celebrated because they're pretty violent. Now, considering
I used to enjoy gladiators.
Well, okay, I guess, but not in reality. I'm sure that you probably chuck your lunch if you saw somebody sever someone else's head.
Oh no, I mean like Gladiators, the TV show.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, no. I'm talking about
not Gladiators.
I'm talking
like,
about Roman
you like
gladiators.
gladiator films,
Right.
Bobby?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, there's the lions. You got to keep the lions hungry.
One has to, yeah, exactly. One has to admit that when we are in times of stress and distrust and all sorts of things, we look towards the entertainment sphere to bring us some solace. And quite honestly, gladiator games, as they did in Rome, provided entertainment for the masses when times weren't all that great. And so this really helps out. And I think this is the safest and probably the funnest part. This is kind of like watching flat track roller derby, which is awesome. You get people with couches all around the track and, with their kids and drinking beer and laughing and talking and, people skating by. And it's great shit. It's good stuff. It's enjoyable. It's lots of fun without a lot of have to work, without having to work at it. There's no sort of pretense. You're not having to be some sort of buff or an aficionado. You can just go have a beer, have a laugh, and see some crazy stuff that you haven't really seen before, like people jumping off of ladders on each other. And honestly, in the end, you get to see that these people are actually physical athletes. There is training involved. They do go through a process. They aren't just throwing each other around hoping that they're not going to get hurt, although it is a sport where people do get hurt. And that's just like jiu-jitsu, which I love and I participate in. But, there is a factor. So you also get that sort of like, oh, is everybody going to be okay kind of an effect. New is probably the best thing since sliced bread in terms of local promotions. I really got into the wrestling before it became a thing. And it's just because it was there on the TV growing up as a kid, and it was lots of fantasy and, just kind of fun. Then, the WWF came along, Hulk Hogan and all those guys, and it became this weird industry that was just sort of blown out of proportion, and mega stars and cocaine parties and weird sex things, and it just got out of hand. Yeah. And recently, the WWE has tried to clean up its image. They do have morality contracts, or clauses, I should say, with their wrestlers. Sometimes it doesn't really work that well.
Well, but it's back to PG-13 now.
Well, yeah, but they did initially because they realized, and this is where it is, your biggest fans are your kids and adults who just, are normal human beings. It's not meant for anybody else. It's, and then what was really kind of cool is I did do in my days of acting, which I, may still do, but when I was doing it then, I did a bunch of WWE films, in fact.
Right, yep.
And it was pretty awesome to see these guys were doing a film and, a couple 10-year-old boys come wandering past the set. They do a double take, and then they split like as fast as they go. And in about 5 minutes, there's 30 of them.
I believe you said you were in a film with Edge, right? Adam Copeland?
Yes, I was actually, and several other, and they're really nice guys. They're good human beings, and you kind of have to be because you're playing to an audience, right? You're a populist entertainer. So he went out there, he talked to the kids, and of course their jaws dropped to the ground and their eyes opened up as big as stars, and they just, they loved it. The world was, their oyster at that point. So it kind of fell apart. And it became very disconnected from the population it was trying to serve. And in all reality, the local indie wrestling scene was the answer. And unfortunately, there's a lot of bad promoters out there, and a lot of wrestlers getting taken advantage of, and not really be promoted well. The events are not that great. They didn't do a really good job. So Chris, being a complete freaky fan of this whole thing, he grew up on it. He got involved in it, and then he found himself another completely freaky fan of it, Rob Fay, and they decided to do their own thing, what they consider to be the right way. And honestly, looking at, Calgary Stampede and how it served the public, it wasn't too big. It was meant to be there for everybody. This is mirroring that, but on a very local level, but also including people that you might recognize from the big shows. I had fun. I've been to a couple of them. The wrestlers are cool people. They're interesting. They really do care about their crowd, and they care about their craft.
Yeah, they are acrobats. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
They're doing some crazy shite.
Yep.
It's very cool.
It's more than that, right? Because if all you had to do was a predetermined set of moves, that'd be one thing. But it's really impossible to choreograph a 10-minute, 12-minute fight.
Right.
So for the vast majority of it, it's being put together as they go.
Yeah.
So there's acting involved, there's improv involved, there's comedy involved, there's the athleticism and acrobatics. It's storytelling in front of 400 screaming people who are very deep into their quota of beer for the night. And if you screw up, you don't just potentially break your neck, but you also get mocked by 400 screaming, lubed up beer fans. So
the booze is a big part of it, but there's also, and I want to stress this, it's a whole family experience.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's not something you'd be afraid to bring your kids to.
No, and this show is more aimed at the all ages crowd than most. Okay. Although it's also, we've made a real effort to make it a diverse lineup.
Right. Yeah.
And inclusive, because quite frankly, my beef with previous promotions around town was when it came to the treatment of women, they were a little bit old school. When it came to treatment of First Nations, old school. Ethnicities, sexualities, it was all like aimed at a guy who would be a bit of a Chad. And what we found with our shows is we get more women than men, right? Especially the show on Granville Street, it was about a 60-40 crowd, women to dudes. And so I think that there's a real yearning out there for action that doesn't involve sitting yourself down in a movie theater for 2 hours and paying $15 for a drink. Why not go and see that action movie play out live in front of you, and get to bounce up and down and yell at them while they're doing it? I think wrestling gets a bad rap because the WWE is nigh unwatchable and is dog shit that's been dumbed down so that they can sell it to Disney one day.
Yeah.
And that's what people think of wrestling. But you come to an indie show, it is a whole other ball of wax.
Yep.
By the way, Galen mentioned it because you mentioned your football club and wrestling. Roller derby kind of went hand in hand back when I was growing up with the wrestling.
Oh yeah, Skinny Minnie Miller.
That might be your third, like the Philadelphia T-Birds. I remember them.
I've got one eye on rugby. I think rugby is going to be a thing that's going to, over the next 5 years, really, a lot of kids are playing it in school instead of traditional North American football.
Yep.
And soccer. I think those two things are going to take off.
The BC place always sells out whenever they have that tournament here.
I went to school.
A lot of Fijians here.
I went to a school in a championship rugby team. It was Semiahmoo Senior Secondary, and those guys kicked ass all over North America. In fact, they were quite good. Yep.
What is the sentiment on the mass dumbed down scale, Michelle?
So, we have to talk, of course, about the big boys, that is World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE. But, tying this in all together, it is a great time to be a wrestling fan. And I think it's, a great time to enjoy wrestling because it is hot. WWE just recently pulled out their best earnings ever, grossing over $1 billion, which is a big leap. I mean, I think the last time it was like 240 million. So I think this is, obviously there's part of their big deal in Saudi Arabia, but I think a part of it is also, they can now have these road shows, right? House shows. People are coming to their shows. People are coming in mass. Although there are some people that have said that a bit of the crowd is. Some of the seats are empty because of how bad the product is. But they're making big bucks, and they are, I guess, a bit more. They're aiming more mainstream now. WrestleMania is around the corner. It looks like they're having, Johnny Knoxville from Jackass is going to be in a match, and so is Logan Paul. Yeah, Logan Paul. He's going to be in a match as well. And then, of course, WWE is always talking about Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey, who are, I guess, more of a celebrity name there. But as Chris mentioned, there is talks of a potential sale. Indonesia, I believe, or Disney Indonesia has linked like a distribution deal where they're going to be showing WWE only in the country of Indonesia through Disney. And some people are sort of seeing that as maybe Disney just testing the waters, and then maybe down the road they might buy WWE out. And from there, WWE is going to be streaming on Disney Plus, I guess. But stock-wise, the company just keeps bringing in money. And yeah, the chart is looking pretty decent, actually. We were holding this major support at $48. Earnings came out on February 4th of this year, so just 2 weeks ago, and it took the stock flying. And, given what the broader market indices are doing, WWE is actually holding up quite well, and I think it's largely part because they pay a dividend, and I guess they have a product, right? It's not tech. As Galen mentioned, people are probably still going to be tuning into wrestling, even if things are going crazy around the world. And yeah, bringing in $1 billion, right? It's big money. Potential sale as well, which I think, if Disney does buy WWE,
I think that's what might be fueling most of the positivity right now.
Yeah, because I'm thinking the same thing, right? If Disney's going to buy WWE out, it's going to be for a premium, right? It's probably going to be higher than $58 US dollars. WWE has traded close to $100 per share at the peak in 2019. So I think there is that benefit there too, that not only do they pay a dividend, but there's this pretty decent sized chance that they're going to get bought up. But just quickly going back, there's now competition. AEW's out there. They're putting some good stuff, and there's a lot of like indie promotions. And as I said, great time to be a wrestling fan. And I'm bullish the space. If you can be bullish on the space, I would be bullish the space. And yeah, I think as Chris is saying here, audiences are coming, right? You're getting sellouts because people really, really like this product. And there's like my generation, I sort of grew up with wrestling. We were, growing up in the Attitude Era. We were doing the DX signs, near our crotch in elementary school. And, the principal had to ban those two words. And, when we were growing up, basically wrestling went PG-13. So we sort of missed that whole Attitude Era. And it looks like that's coming back with AEW and a lot of the indie scenes, right? It is sort of that type of wrestling that we miss. And, that's just one of the type of things that this young generation, or my generation, was growing up on, and now, is getting very popular in this day and age because I guess, we have the money to now consume this kind of stuff. So, yeah, I'm really bullish the space for sure.
I think it's neat. Also, it just did the W there at the end of the.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
How fitting.
It looks like it's heading towards the top rope.
Yeah, there you go. There's the top rope.
The turnbuckle.
Yep.
Chris, are you going to invest in a? You're not a WWE guy. I think you're going to keep your investment with the local.
WWE sucks. Like, it's 25 minutes of people talking and then 2 minutes of them wrestling. It's stupid. And added to which, all the people that they've brought back as main eventers in this last 6 months, they're all guys from like 10 years ago. Ronda Rousey, Goldberg.
Yeah.
Like, they're all just digging up any names that they can sell from back in the day and paying them a few $1 million to come out 4 times a year. This is the sort of company that sells recreations of their title belts to fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's like 3,000 people walking around with a title belt.
Yeah.
Talk about devaluing your product.
Yeah.
They've recently sacked a lot of their guys They've trimmed the roster down to the point where, hey, if you're not actually showing wrestling matches, I guess you don't need so many wrestlers. And that's good for us because we get to take them into Vancouver and fly them in and put on a show for people. I think WWE stinks. If I could invest in AEW, I would, but that's a private deal that the Khan family owns. But I look at what they did there. They invested a relatively small amount of money into setting up an alternative promotion in WWE, and it is now worth something significant. It's drawing ratings and it's competing on the large scale. So there's a lot of space around NEW's level. There's Defy Wrestling in Seattle, GCW in California. Like there's a bunch of mid-range Impact and that kind of thing around that either have TV or really close to having TV. We're just aiming to do the best we can in Canada and own this country, get on TV, get people to a show that they can enjoy, sell them a T-shirt, and get them to come back. So, that's how I've invested in pro wrestling. Not everyone can do that or necessarily wants to. But I think as much as WWE might have some upward mobility on its share price, I think it's relatively short-lived. I don't see that company growing over the long term. I know they're getting a bunch of cash revenue-wise from shows in Saudi Arabia. And I ain't down with going and doing business with the bone saw people, even if they're paying you a chunk of change. Initially, the female wrestlers in those shows were having to go out there in like T-shirts to adhere to local regulations. So I don't know. I think WWE is doing everything it can to draw as much cash in as possible now at the expense of its long-term future. And it won't end well unless they get a big, stupid deal from somebody who will instantly regret the price they pay for it.
Well, just to your point there, Chris, believe it or not, but there's rumors that WWE is actually bringing back Stone Cold Steve Austin for WrestleMania.
I mean, it's just basically just going through the roster of 50 and 60-year-olds and saying,
exactly. So that's the big sort of argument is like, there's only maybe The Rock left, right? Who's maybe in decent condition. But after that, I mean, does WWE actually have that star for the future? I guess John Cena's still around, right? But, they're bringing back Goldberg and all these old guys. So
these guys, they come back for 4 engagements, right? They don't do house shows in Dubuque. So this is really what it's come down to is it's all about the big pay-per-view and not about the, actually building an industry. The development side of WWE, they've started giving, what's the name of these deals that have been given to college athletes? The likeness image thingo. Anyway, college athletes are able to monetize themselves.
Oh, right.
Now,
Yes. Yep.
right, by signing these deals for their likeness. And WWE is going out and paying money to basketball players and gymnasts and basically deciding that, hey, we'll spend 2 months teaching them to wrestle and then we'll put them in a show and make them a star because they're beautiful.
Well, here we go.
It just misses the whole point of the guys on the indie circuit that build up fan bases across the country that when they get to the big scene, can make an even bigger splash because they actually know what they're doing. They've actually got a reputation and they're not just some pretty 20-year-old girl who's been taught how to do a back body drop. So I think we're going to be the saviors of the business. The guys like me, the guys like us at the bottom end who are going to raise the standard of the bottom end and hopefully help build the next set of champions. But I wouldn't be investing in WWE and expecting them to do the smart thing anytime soon.
Galen, no money from you?
Despite my enjoyment of it, I would invest in other things. It's just not something for me.
Wait for NEW to go public.
Yeah. I would do the same thing. I mean, I would wait for NEW to go public, but this is the thing, right? WWE is a cash-making machine. So, the product might not be the greatest, but they make the money, right? They make cash. So I think, if you are playing this as a trade to make money in the future, I think
I don't think it's a retirement fund. I mean, because
no retirement, no.
Well, no, because that's what I'm saying is that this is not a long thing. Like you said, it's just a trade. Because if you look at WWF, that was supposed to be the be all and end all, and where the hell is it now?
Yeah, but I do think with the idea of them bringing in $1 billion, and it is looking like they'll be bought out. That's what I'm thinking. So I think as like one of those type of ideas, I think I would be putting in 3K just to play that buyout clause, and they pay a dividend. They're bringing in the money, so I think it's a relatively safe sort of hold. And again, people are still going to the shows. The viewership is still there because wrestling is hot. It's still popular. WWE is trying to go a bit more mainstream with, as I said, with the actors and sort of bigger names. But I think if a company like Disney comes along, I don't think Vince McMahon would say no. I think he might say, sure, yeah, let's sell and move on.
Remember back in the day when WeWork was about to IPO, and
Right,
every office building in the world was being rented out by WeWork in advance of that IPO, right? They wanted a sign on every street corner. They wanted everyone in the world to know that WeWork owned all the office space. And then people started poking around in their offering document, and then suddenly the value of this thing dropped through the floor.
Yeah.
WWE is doing to me what WeWork was doing then, right? They're juicing the numbers, cutting their expenses, bringing in some old guys who have 6 months tops before they sit down again. And I think what they're trying to do is to do one big splash pay-per-view, claim that they're on the ascension, get some clueless suit to give them more money than they should, and then they'll all go retire, the McMahon family.
Yeah.
But it's all or nothing, right? If they don't get that big deal, then it all goes to shit real quick when you don't have any talent.
Yeah, the merch thing is the crazy thing. Like, I wonder how much these people actually fork over for a freaking mimic belt. Like, it's just insane.
I can't imagine walking around with, like, I've got one in the other room here, and I feel really weird putting it on because I haven't earned
it. Does. It's disturbing.
I haven't earned it, right? Like, I'll bring it out as a prop for one of these things, but like, all my life I was a wrestling fan, and I was like, it'd be great to have one of those belts. I can't put the damn thing on because I haven't earned it. And to think of going out and buying one for $59.95 is just bonkers.
Yeah, you're not meeting any ladies walking to coffee wearing that thing.
That's the other thing is like,
well, that's what's wrong.
Wrestling merch is fine and all, but it doesn't get you a second date.
No, you're not getting the belt's not getting you any.
No, just strange looks. All right. Going to the other side of the street.
All right, tell us before we get out of here. First, we'll just say if you want to invest in WWE, we can't guarantee anything that anybody has said, yay or nay, and you have to do your own homework and research. And past performance at WWE stock charts does not mean future performance is guaranteed. But before we blast out, one last plug-o-rama for Friday night, Chris.
Get yourself to nationextremewrestling.com and buy tickets. Or just turn up at the door and buy tickets. And pretty soon we'll have a merchandise site up so you can buy merch.
Friday, 25th.
And spend money on local shows, man.
Yeah.
Like, get out there again. It's fun. Get out with people. Be part of a tribe.
Support them. All right. For Galen, you got those brownies ready?
Yeah, I've already eaten 6.
Oh, God. For Shell, CP, I'm Rob. See you on the next Equity Guru Investor Roundtable.